Are we only using 10% of our brains? Have you ever heard this before? If so, it's time to get your mind blown, because what you're about to learn will change how you think forever. What if I told you that science actually does have an answer for this? So keep watching, because in today's video, I will be explaining whether or not humans really only use 10% of their brains. In order to understand this concept, we must first learn about neurons, brain anatomy, and what happens when these two collide. Before we start, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss a video. Let's get into it. Neurons are the basic structural and functional units of our nervous system, and they allow us to do everything from feeling emotions, to thinking complex thoughts, to moving our bodies. Each neuron consists of a cell body and extensions called axons and dendrites. Axons carry signals away from the cell body, and dendrites receive signals from other neurons. The human brain has billions of neurons, and each neuron can connect with thousands of others. This creates a vast network that allows for communication throughout the body. Now here's where things get interesting. The connections between neurons are what allow us to store memories, learn new things, and even control our movements. This is how we learn and grow as humans. However, there are times when these connections between neurons are lost. This can happen for a variety of reasons, such as injury or disease. When a connection is lost, the function of the brain can be impaired. For example, if the connection between the brain and the spinal cord is impaired, it can cause paralysis. If the connection between the brain and the eyes is impaired, it can cause blindness. And if the connection between the brain and the ears is impaired, it can cause deafness. You might be thinking, why am I telling you this? Well, all of this leads up to one big question. What happens when 90% of your brain is not being used? To answer this question, we need to take a look at some of the research that has been conducted on the topic. In one study published in the Journal of Neurophysiology, researchers used brain imaging techniques to measure the activity of different parts of the brain. They found that even when people were performing simple tasks, almost all of their brain was active. There was no part of the brain that was completely inactive. This suggests that we are using all of our brain, but perhaps not all at once. Another study published in the same journal used a different technique to measure brain activity. This study looked at the amount of blood flow to different parts of the brain. Again, they found that even when people were performing simple tasks, almost all of their brain was active. These studies suggest that we are using all of our brain, but perhaps different parts of the brain are more active at different times. But what about the 10% figure? Where did that come from? The truth is that there is no scientific basis for this claim. It is not clear where the 10% figure came from, but it has been perpetuated by popular culture and the media. This has led many people to believe that we are only using a small percentage of our brain, and that the rest of the brain is dormant or inactive. This simply isn't true. As we've seen, even when we are performing simple tasks, almost all of our brain is active. So why do we feel like we're only using 10% of our brains? Have you ever felt like you're not using your brain to its full potential? Like you're just going through the motions and not really thinking deeply or creatively? If so, you're not alone. Many people feel like they're not using their brain to its full potential. This feeling can be frustrating and even self-limiting. After all, we know that our brain is capable of amazing things. It can create works of art, solve complex problems, and even change the way we look at the world. But sometimes it can feel like we're just not tapping into that potential. However, there may be a reason for this. You see, our brain is a lot like a muscle. If we don't use it, we lose it. So what are some ways to challenge your brain? One way to challenge your brain is to learn something new. This could be anything from a new language to a new skill. The important thing is that you're pushing yourself to learn something that's outside of your comfort zone. Another way to challenge your brain is to engage in critical thinking. This could involve solving puzzles or playing strategy games. The key is to find activities that make you think strategically and creatively. Finally, you can also challenge your brain by staying curious. Ask questions, explore new ideas, and be open to different perspectives. By staying curious, you'll keep your mind sharp and you'll be able to use your brain to its full potential. Now that we know that we are using all of our brain, what happens when we lose brain connections? We already mentioned that losing brain connections can lead to a loss of function. But what exactly does that mean? To answer this question, let's take a look at some of the research that has been conducted on the topic. In one study published in the journal Nature Medicine, researchers studied mice with Alzheimer's disease. The mice were genetically engineered to develop plaques and tangles, which are hallmarks of the disease. As the mice aged, they began to show symptoms of Alzheimer's, such as memory loss and difficulty navigating mazes. Researchers found that the mice had lost connections between neurons in the hippocampus, an area of the brain involved in memory. This loss of connections is thought to be responsible for the memory loss seen in Alzheimer's disease. Another study published in the same journal looked at people who had died of AIDS-related complications. Researchers examined the brains of the deceased and found that they had lost connections between neurons in the cortex, an area of the brain responsible for reasoning and rational thought. This loss of connections is thought to be responsible for the cognitive decline seen in people with AIDS. These studies show that losing brain connections can have a significant impact on our ability to think and reason. It can lead to serious cognitive impairments, making everyday tasks like remembering appointments or solving problems extremely difficult. This is why it's important to take steps to protect our brain connections. One way we can do this is by eating a healthy diet. A diet rich in antioxidants and omega-3 fatty acids can help protect our brain connections from damage. We can also reduce our risk of developing diseases like Alzheimer's by staying physically active. Exercise has been shown to improve blood flow to the brain, which can help keep our brain connections strong and healthy. Finally, we can also reduce our risk of developing diseases like dementia by staying mentally active. By keeping our minds sharp, we can help keep our brain connections intact. Overall, protecting our brain connections is essential to maintaining our cognitive abilities as we age. Is there a way to restore brain connections? If so, what is it? The answer is yes, and it involves two processes: neuroplasticity and neurogenesis. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's ability to change and adapt in response to experience. This can involve forming new connections between existing neurons or even growing new neurons. Neurogenesis is the process of creating new neurons. Both of these processes are essential for restoring brain connections. Neuroplasticity allows us to form new connections between neurons, which can help restore the flow of information in the brain. Neurogenesis, on the other hand, allows us to replace lost neurons, which can help restore the function of damaged areas of the brain. There are a few things that can help promote neuroplasticity and neurogenesis. One is exercise. Exercise has been shown to increase the amount of neurotransmitters in the brain, which can help improve the communication between neurons. Exercise also increases the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, which is a protein that helps support the growth and development of neurons. Another thing that can promote neuroplasticity and neurogenesis is cognitive stimulation. This could involve things like solving puzzles, learning a new language, or even just engaging in stimulating conversations. Cognitive stimulation challenges the brain to make new connections between neurons, which can help restore the flow of information in the brain. Finally, getting enough sleep can also help promote neuroplasticity and neurogenesis. Sleep allows the brain to rest and repair itself, which is essential for maintaining healthy brain connections. Overall, restoring brain connections is a complex process that involves multiple factors. By understanding the basics of neuroplasticity and neurogenesis, we can take steps to support this process and potentially restore brain connections that have been lost due to injury or disease. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.